me against the world, where it has lines that says like, can you picture my prophecy? Stress in the city, the cops on top of me. The projects is full of bullets, though bodies is dropping. There ain't no stopping me. Constantly moving while making millions. Witnessing killings, leaving dead bodies in abandoned buildings. Can't reach the children cause they illin'. Addicted to killing and the appeal of the cat pilling. Without feeling, but where they last will be blasted. Hard-headed bastard. Maybe he'll listen in this casket. Now how does that glorify thug life or gangsterism? I don't see how that does it. I don't understand how that could be, how you can say, you know, we're the cause of all this violence. I think that what we need to do as a community is start taking control back of our communities. You know, I understand there's always going to be drug dealing, I understand there's always going to be violence, but we just need to regulate it so that we can at least have like a peaceful zone where we can all be cool, you know, or else we're going to all die. We're going to all be destroyed.
R.P. Lele. Mousetrap, nigga. DJ Victorious, nigga. Poppin'.
You think that I ain't in it? You a fucking dummy. Little nigga drilling. R.I.P. Yummy. You think that I ain't in it? You a fucking dummy. Little nigga drilling. R.I.P. Yummy.
Killed.
That's
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you know, cause you know I used to run around with Lil Yummy. So you know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
And see my little bro get killed at 11. At that time when I was 12, it's like, whoa. This shit out here real, you know what I'm saying?
Siobhan Dean, shot in the head by a stray bullet during a shooting spree in the city's Roseland neighborhood that injured 2 other teens. Chicago police quickly identified 11-year-old Robert Sandifer as the gunman. That led to an intense 3-day manhunt. Gang leaders decided that Robert needed to be silenced because he knew too much, so they ordered Craig to kill him.
Why did Robert die?
By means of not my control.
And was it your life versus his life?
Absolutely.
You thought it was that simple as either you do this or you die?
And that's how it always boils down. It's not like any wiggle room when you live in that lifestyle.
So you're saying you had no other choice?
Yes.
The concrete underpass was dark. It smelled of damp earth and neglect. 2 boys led a third one down the sloping path. The air was thick with the late summer humidity of Chicago. The date was September 1st, 1994. The boy being led was Robert Sandifer. He was small for his age. He was only 11 years old. To his friends and his gang, he was known as Yummy. He was called this because he loved cookies. He loved sweets. But tonight, there was nothing sweet about the situation. He thought he was being taken to safety. He thought his gang, the Black Disciples, were helping him escape. They were his family. They were his protectors. He was wrong. He had been on the run for 3 days. His face was everywhere. It was on the news. It was in the newspapers. He was wanted for murder. The city of Chicago was looking for a child killer. Yummy trusted the older boys, Craig and Derek. He believed they'd keep him safe. One was 16, the other 14. They said they'd get him out of town. They walked him toward the dark viaduct at 108th and Dauphin. Gunshots cracked through the underpass. 2 bullets struck the back of Yummy's head. He fell instantly.
Also a little nervous when it comes to this interview.
I always saw media as the enemy.
20 years after a notorious murder that thrust him into the national spotlight, for the first time ever, he and his younger brother Derek are talking about the case that changed their lives forever.
It took me years to really admit and accept my role in it.
It was an unusually chilly September night in 1994 as the body of an 11-year-old was loaded into the back of an ambulance. He had been shot twice in the back of the head in a hit ordered by the leaders of the Black Disciples.
What happened that night?
Chaos.
Despite numerous requests over the years, this is the first interview Craig Hardaway has agreed to do. Craig was only 16 years old when his mugshot was plastered on TV, arrested for the murder of 11-year-old Robert Yummy Sandifer. His brother Derek, 14 at the time, was too young for his mugshot to be released. He was convicted of driving the getaway car. All 3, Craig, Derek, and Yummy, members of the same gang, chasing money, respect, and trying to make a name for themselves.
For me, it was more like identity. It was more like, okay, I want to belong to something. I want to be a part of something.
It's an addiction. It's a strong addiction, and it pulls you in quickly.
His small body lay still in the gravel. The Hardaway brothers didn't stay long. They had followed their orders. The orders came from the high-ranking members of their own gang. The Black Disciples had decided that Lil Yummy was a problem. He was a witness. He knew too much. He was attracting too much attention from the police. And so, they silenced him. Who was Robert Yummy Sandifer? Before he was a killer or a victim, he was just a little boy. A boy born into a world that gave him few chances. He grew up on the south side of Chicago, in Roseland. Poverty and violence were part of daily life. His mother had over a dozen children and struggled with drug addiction. His father was in prison. Yummy was passed around from home to home and was a ward of the state. He was known to social workers and the police long before he became infamous. He had a long rap sheet for a child: shoplifting, robbery, arson. He was small, only 4 feet 6 inches tall. He had a tattoo on his arm that said BDN III, for Black Disciples Nation. He wanted to belong. The Black Disciples gave him a nickname. They gave him a structure. They gave him a purpose, even if that purpose was criminal. The crime that made him a household name was brutal. On August 28, 1994, Yummy was trying to shoot at rival gang members. He fired a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. The bullets missed their intended targets and struck Shavon Dean, a 14-year-old girl. She was an innocent bystander, playing outside near her home, and was killed instantly. The city was outraged. A child had killed another child. The manhunt for Robert Sandifer began. The story of the 11-year-old killer traveled far beyond Chicago. It reached the ears of one of the most famous and controversial figures in music. 2Pac Shakur was at the height of his fame. He was a rapper, an actor, and a powerful voice for a generation. He was also no stranger to the realities of street violence. 2Pac's music often explored the pain, anger, and desperation of young black men in America. He rapped about the very conditions that created boys like Lil Yummy. The news of Yummy's life and death struck a deep chord with him. He was deeply disturbed by the story. It felt personal to him. 2Pac saw more than just a headline. He saw a child who never had a chance. He saw the failure of a society to protect its most vulnerable. In an interview, 2Pac spoke about Yummy with a raw sense of grief and anger. He asked, "They're making it seem like he was a monster, but he was a baby." 2Pac felt that the media and the public were too quick to condemn the child, without understanding the circumstances that led him down that path. For 2Pac, Yummy's story was a symbol of a larger war being waged against black youth. It was a war fought not with armies, but with poverty, neglect, and systemic indifference. He planned to make a song about Yummy. The song was to be called Yummy's Got a Gun. It was meant to be a cautionary tale, a lament, a cry for help for all the other Yummies out there. He wanted the world to look past the crime and see the tragedy of a stolen childhood. Robert Sandifer was born on March 12, 1983, on the south side of Chicago. He was born into Roseland, a neighborhood that was once a bedrock of working-class stability, but by the 1980s, was caught in a downward spiral. The factories that had provided jobs and security were closing, leaving behind a landscape of economic despair and social fracture. This was the Chicago that awaited Robert. He was born into a world that was not...
I had just earlier mentioned, I had recently interviewed Big Preem, and basically Big Preem, he was saying like that hood he from is Lil Yummy hood. Like he was, when I interviewed him, he was talking about like a time where the BDs was like a smaller, tight-knit organization, and then when the shit happened with Lil Yummy, that when 2Pac made that song, it blew up. You know what I'm saying? Like, what was the legend of Lil Yummy as you was a shorty growing up, you know, in the trenches? Like
the first badass. Like I ain't even gonna lie, I feel like my whole hood was kind of modeled out of like Lil Yummy prototypes. You know what I'm saying? Because like Lil Yummy was a household name in my childhood, even though he was already dead. You know what I'm saying? Like the myth, the legend of a little 12, 13-year-old running around. That's what 600 was built on. 12, 13-year-olds running around trying to get active, you know what I'm saying? That's what we was and you like a lot of hoods, they had shorties and all that, but that was really like 600 shit. We had 15, 12-year-olds ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, that's what we modeled our hood after, I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like not just with him in mind, but just like with his mystique and how he operated. With us knowing that a shorty was out here doing that and it was possible for a shorty, I feel like when we came in the game, we kind of modeled ourselves after that. You know what I'm saying? Not just like me or something. I'm just saying like the model in the hood. Like just cause you young, nigga, that don't mean you ain't gotta put in work. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gotta wait till you get older. You get on the nigga ass in 6th grade. You start toting guns in 6th grade in my hood and shit like that. 5th grade and bringing guns to elementary school. In 7th grade and shit. We 13, 12 years old. We coming to school with pipes. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we was living, folk. You know what I'm saying? So Lil Young.
From his first moments, the odds were stacked impossibly high. His mother, already a teenager with other children, struggled with her own demons. His father was largely absent, a phantom figure in a life that desperately needed a foundation. He entered a life where the basic needs of a child, consistent affection, safety, nourishment, were luxuries that were rarely available. The chaos of his home environment meant that stability was a foreign concept. A meal, a clean bed, a comforting word. These were not guarantees, but rare and fleeting moments of relief. He was small from the beginning, a detail that would follow him throughout his life, making him seem even more vulnerable than he already was. His slight frame and cherubic face belied the immense weight he carried. His nickname, Yummy, came from his love of sweets, a simple, childlike trait that stood in stark contrast to the harshness of his reality. It was a name that spoke of an innocence he was fighting to keep, a small flicker of the child who loved cookies and candy, lost in a world that demanded he be something else entirely. But the innocence of his nickname couldn't hide the truth. The physical scars he bore told a story of his suffering long before he ever picked up a gun. Medical records from his early childhood document a horrifying and consistent pattern of abuse. Cigarette burns on his arms, cigarette burns on his neck, welts, bruises, a constellation of pain inflicted upon a small body. He was being hurt by the very people who were supposed to protect him. This is the ultimate betrayal for a child. It warps the world, teaching them that love is pain and that safety is an illusion. For Yummy, home was not a sanctuary. It was the source of his terror. This foundation of neglect and abuse made him an outcast even before he had a chance to find his place. At school, he was known for being disruptive. He couldn't read, couldn't focus. How could he, when his mind was a fortress built to withstand the trauma of his daily life?
Kill.
At
You know
10?
what I'm saying? Yeah, but you know, cause you know I used to run around with Lil Yummy, so you know what I'm saying.
That's crazy.
And see my little bro get killed at 11. At that time, when I was 12, it's like, whoa, this shit out here real. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, it's all fun and games till somebody get hurt, but then when you hanging out on blocks and shit, and you seeing the older guys do what they do, and you seeing really get shot, get killed, or they split open, you like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's different. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, you know what's crazy? So Lil Yummy, you know, a lot of people know him. I'm from up the street, so I heard that name is legendary. But then a person that really made it like the nation heard it. 2Pac, he was talking about him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was your homie. You grew up with Shorty.
Yeah.
Damn. So what he was like, you know what I'm saying?
He was what they say.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? One of them kids that's from poverty, you know, family on drugs, the streets raising you, and you know, turn your heart cold. You know, things, you know, we get adapted to things that most kids are fear of, we fearless of. So, you know, when you got a kid that young, man, and they fearless of a lot of shit, those are the results.
Yeah, damn. How did that affect you getting that news? Like how did you get that news, if you don't mind me asking?
My mama actually told me.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I was actually sent out of town because we was doing so much bad shit with my father now. And my mama told me. And when my grandma cut on the news, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. And then, like you say, he come the songs and the documentaries, you know. I remember my uncle riding around playing it, you know what I'm saying? Shorty wanna be a thug in his drop top. I used to sit there and cry. And they didn't understand because they don't know my lifestyle here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like you said, they was well to do, so it's different. Yeah. Damn. So that song "Shorty Wanna Be a Thug" by 2Pac, that was inspired by Yummy. So I didn't know that. Yeah. I remember he like did like a deposition or something. He had his picture right there. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Damn. So how was that like being 2Pac was one of the biggest artists of our generation during that time? You know what I'm saying? He's speaking on your homie that you know. Like, how did that?
But you know, like you said, that brought a spotlight to the organization. Like, you know what I'm saying? BD's was always a small, you know what I'm saying, tight-knit organization. And that's what put the spotlight on Black Disciples.
Yeah.
That.
I could see that. Yeah. So you felt like that was like on some dry snitch shit, or it was just like how you feel
back
about
then, you know, we ain't think about it like that. You know what I'm saying? For me, it was just like 2Pac rapping about bro. You know what I'm saying? In my head, like we famous.
Yeah, y'all.
And a lot of older niggas head that was moving, grooving, or you know, the powers to be to say so, they probably felt a different type of way. Cause you know what I'm saying, that the police brung a lot of heat on them about that.
Damn. Yeah. You know, I had shout out DJ U. I seen DJ U, the guys that got accused of that. They did an interview with him or whatever. You know them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, that's crazy. All right. So I don't really want to dwell on that, but I just you say you 11 and 12. How did you meet him, if you don't mind me asking?
When I moved out there to the hundreds, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, I stayed on this. My uncle always stayed, so you know, mama was a Rolling Stone. You know what I'm saying? I stayed in shelters and everything. So, you know, boop, moving around, shorty running through the hoods and you know what I'm saying? Us trying to be bad, he already the bad one. You know what I'm saying? If he was like that, I'm older than him, but he was the big homie.
The Blackstones want me to be with them, GDs be with them, but yeah, I had to run in with them in Milwaukee because that was when that little kid died, Yummy Sandifer.
Yeah, I heard you sent a shout out to him.
Yeah, I had to do the show that next day after they just killed that kid.
Yeah.
Because you heard what happened, right?
Yeah, they executed him.
Right, they executed him, and I was out there when I did the show. The gang was in the fucking audience. The whole gang had like bought out the stadium.
Damn.
So I'm rapping to the niggas that just killed this little kid, and they all screaming out "Thug Life," and I felt bad. Like, wait a minute, they got it twisted.
So we always stayed together.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's once upon a time y'all kind of like split up and things like that.
I would say only time I could say split up is when like we was not with our mother, was our grandma.
Right.
Then when we left my grandma, we went back to our mama.
Right. What I want to know about Yummy, the internet portrays him as an 11-year-old assassin.
Right.
Okay. Do you know that Yummy, or you know the real Yummy right now like that?
I mean, I know the real Yummy because you know it was my brother. He would take me outside in the back.
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't say he was an assassin on the thing that he was like the situation that he was globalized for.
Right.
It was a misunderstanding.
Right.
But I ain't gonna say.
Okay, what do you mean by misunderstanding? Because the story of Yummy, it tells the story of him being a kid who killed another young person.
Honestly, misunderstanding by that I mean he was misidentified.
Right.
I want to say that.
Okay, what you mean by misidentified? You don't believe that was him? Had anything to do with it?
I don't believe it was him, and I believe other people wanted him to take the fall.
Right.
And he wasn't going for it, so.
With him being 11, you know, it kind of make it seem like that's very, very young. It's people 11 years old that did he have a name before he passed away, or he was just a regular kid before all this happened?
I mean, he had a name.
Oh, he had a name in the neighborhood. People knew Yummy.
Yeah.
At 11.
Yeah.
How is that possible, though?
I mean, he was outside. I mean, he was outside. I mean,
right.
No, my grandma was outside. She was doing her thing. My mama was outside. They was raising themselves, basically.
So they
in
like
a sense,
in a street area,
yeah.
Street family, something like that.
Yeah, basically, yeah. He was in the streets.
And he was 11 years old. You know, they tell the story of like a 16-year-old girl, I guess, being shot 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I watched several documentaries on this. There's some documentaries that say Yummy was the fall guy.
Right.
He had nothing to do with this. And it is some documentaries that said that he was behind this.
Yeah.
In your opinion, you feel like that was hyped up?
Yeah, it was hyped up. I feel like And now in times of days, we know how to go.
Right.
Have the younger person take the charge. Well, even if you is out there or not, it's more. It make more sense for a person to have a person as the youngest one, because they thinking he won't get charged, but you know they changed the law after him.
Do you remember that day when things like that happened?
I honestly can't
So long
recall.
ago?
Yeah, I can't recall the specific day, but
Right. You know, now what I want to ask you though, because it does tell us.
He was punished, moved, labeled, but rarely was he healed or understood. Each label, problem child, delinquent, pushed him further to the margins, reinforcing the message he'd received since birth. You do not belong. He was an invisible child, hiding in plain sight, his silent screams for love and safety lost in the noise of a system that was too overwhelmed and a family that was too broken to hear him. He was one of thousands of children falling through the cracks in a city at war with itself. By the time he was 8 years old, Robert Sandifer was no longer living at home. The state finally intervened. He officially became a ward of the state. This was supposed to be his rescue. But for a child already deeply scarred by abandonment, being removed from the only family he knew, however flawed, was just another form of loss. His journey through the social services system was a blur of group homes, shelters, and foster placements. Each new location was a temporary stop, another set of strange faces, another reminder that he had no permanent place to call his own. He would run away, get into fights, and defy authority. His behavior was not random defiance, it was a desperate attempt to exert some control over a life that had none. He ran from placements back to the familiar chaos of his old neighborhood, choosing the devil he knew over the sterile indifference of the system. The system that was meant to save him amplified his sense of abandonment. Social workers, burdened by impossible caseloads, saw a troubled file, not a terrified child. He was passed from one overworked official to another, each transfer deepening his conviction that no one would ever truly care for him. Psychologists' reports from this period paint a devastating picture. They describe a boy with low self-esteem, anxious and angry. One report notes his inability to see the consequences of his actions, a classic symptom of a child living in survival mode, focused only on getting through the next minute, the next hour. He was a boy who felt worthless, and he acted accordingly. When the legitimate family fails and the state fails, a child will look for family wherever they can find it. It is no surprise he turned to an illegitimate one, the Black Disciples Gang, which promised him the three things the system never could: a permanent home, a sense of identity, a family that would never cast him out. The Black Disciples, or BDs, were one of Chicago's most powerful and notorious street gangs. Born from the city's brutal racial politics and economic segregation, they had evolved into a sprawling criminal enterprise. The gang was highly organized, modeled after a corporate board with a chairman, ministers, and governors controlling territory and operations. It was a sophisticated structure built on violence and illicit commerce, primarily the drug trade. At the bottom of this pyramid were the foot soldiers, young boys and teenagers like Yummy. They were the most expendable, tasked with doing the most dangerous work for the smallest share of the profits. They were the face of the gang on the street, the ones who enforced its rules and fought its battles. For a boy like Yummy, who had no identity of his own, the gang offered a ready-made one. It came with symbols, colors, and codes of conduct. Suddenly, he wasn't just Robert Sandifer, the problem child. He was a BD. He belonged to something powerful. The gang became his surrogate family. The older members were the big brothers and father figures he never had. They gave him attention. They gave him a sense of importance. They taught him their laws, their history, their twisted version of honor. This was a powerful seduction for a child starved of positive male role models. In return, all they asked for was his absolute loyalty, a price Yummy was more than willing to pay. For the first time in his life, he felt seen, valued, and protected. He had found his family, but this family would not save him. It would arm him, use him, and ultimately, it would lead him to his doom.
They want foot, they got foot.
I'm scared. You did what?
And crosses out right here.
Lift your head up. Nah. See that? Oh, they hit him in his eye.
Get your hands all out of his eye.
Come here.
What about it? Don't move for them.
Tell me about the incident Tupac had in Milwaukee when he called out the BDs for killing that little kid, Yummy Senifer.
Man, he was mad because a 8-year-old vice lord killed a 9-year-old gangster disciple, or vice versa, which way it happened. And Pac was mad about it like it was one of his kids or something. Like he was flipping the fuck out, like tripping, dude. Cause I came off stage and I was just sitting down, like waiting, you know what I'm saying? I think I was wiping sweat, you know, fanning myself and shit. And he came and ran past me and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Come on." And I'm like, "You finna go on stage? You finna perform?" And he said, "I'm finna go fight." And so I think like the 24-year-old me, whenever I picked up the chair I was sitting on and pulled out my Glock and followed the nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, let's go. I'm gonna throw this chair and I'm gonna shoot some motherfuckers. And so I followed him on stage with the chair and the pistol. This nigga gets on stage and it's like 300 gangster disciples in the front 3 rows and shit. They was deep as fuck. Pac just started screaming, "You bitch ass niggas, fuck y'all niggas." Like, oh my God. Y'all niggas let an 8-year-old disciple kill a 9-year-old vice lord. Y'all niggas ain't shit. Fuck y'all niggas and shit. You know what I'm saying? And he was flipping out, screaming that shit. Y'all niggas let a motherfucking 8-year-old motherfucking vice lord kill a 9-year-old. Yo, fuck y'all niggas ain't shit. Y'all killing the kids, nigga. And he was tripping. Mad as fuck. And so I guess he got him pissed off enough to where they broke down the barricade and tried to get at him. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I mean, niggas is gonna be niggas, and you gonna be the nigga you are when the shit go down. You just gonna be who you are. I happen to have a Glock. I happen to have 2 double Glocks on me, and I just walked everywhere. I didn't run any motherfucking where. I wish the motherfucker would. I was like, okay, I wish a motherfucker would. I got 2 Glocks in this bitch. I'm just gonna walk back to my hotel room or go find where Pac and them went and shit. If anybody say or look at me crazy, I'm there getting shot. A few times. I was thinking that shit, you know. But they were strapped too. You know, Pac and them had fucking firearms, nigga. Them niggas had SWAT, AK, AR-15s and shit. Mo Preem had a big ass pretty 45. I remember that shit. And he was like, "Yo, fucking open the door, yo." And he had a motherfucking 4.5 pointed like, "Open the fucking door, yo." I was like, "Oh shit, y'all don't open the door, don't open the door, dude. That nigga look like he gonna shoot somebody. He gonna look like he would shoot the first motherfucker he see when the door opened." It was crazy that night, man. They tore the hotel room up and everything. It was plant dirt and shit all over the hotel lobby. It was like a riot or something happened.
The summer of 1994 was a particularly violent one in Chicago. The war between the black disciples and their rivals, especially the gangster disciples, was escalating. For Black Disciples' leadership, the conflict was bad for business. It attracted police attention and disrupted the flow of money. The order came down from higher-ups, put pressure on the gangster disciples. The target, a group of gangster disciples encroaching on territory. Yummy volunteered, eager to prove himself. This was his chance to graduate from Lil Homie to respected soldier. Older members, likely the Hardaway brothers, gave him the weapon, a 9mm semi-automatic. It was heavy, far too big for an 11-year-old's hands. He gripped it anyway. It made him feel powerful. On the evening of August 28, 1994, Yummy set out. He approached youths he believed were gangster disciples. He raised the pistol and fired multiple times. The shots ripped through the quiet evening. Panic, people scattered for cover. Yummy fled, heart pounding. He believed he'd completed his mission. He'd earned his stripes. But in his haste and inexperience, he made a terrible mistake. His bullets missed their targets. One stray round struck 14-year-old Chevin Dean, an innocent girl practicing for a school dance outside her home. He'd crossed a line of no return. With the shooter identified as Robert Yummy Sandifer, the Chicago Police Department launched one of the most intense manhunts the city had seen in years. The news exploded across the city, a grim headline that seemed to confirm the worst fears about a generation lost to violence. An 11-year-old boy was now the city's most wanted fugitive. His name and description were broadcast to every officer in the city, a constant chatter over police radios. But the most powerful tool in their search was his photograph. The image of the small, scowling boy, barely tall enough to see over a steering wheel, was plastered everywhere. It was a haunting, unforgettable face that stared out from television screens and the front pages of newspapers, turning the abstract horror of the crime into the concrete image of a child. Yummy, meanwhile, was in hiding. He was a ghost in his own neighborhood, a phantom moving through the shadows of the very streets he used to play on. For the next 3 days, Yummy was a fugitive. He was on his own for some of it, a scared child navigating a world that had turned entirely against him. But mostly, he was under the so-called protection of the Black Disciples. They shuttled him from one dingy safe house to another, keeping him out of sight. For Yummy, these moments were likely a confusing mix of fear and a desperate need for the reassurance of his crew. The gang's motives were not born of loyalty. They couldn't let him be captured by the police. He knew too much. He was a living, breathing link to their operations, a witness who could dismantle their hierarchy with a single statement. The secrets he held were far more valuable than his life. The manhunt was disrupting the Black Disciples' daily business operations. The constant police patrols, the stop and frisks, the informants. It was grinding their illicit economy to a halt. The intense heat generated by Yummy's crime was becoming a major problem for the organization, a fire they could no longer control. As the third day of the manhunt dawned, perceptions of Yummy within the Black Disciples had shifted. The calculus of the street is brutal and unforgiving. He was no longer the brave little soldier who had followed orders. He was a problem that would not go away. He was a loose end, a liability whose continued existence threatened the entire structure of the gang. The gang's leadership, boys not much older than teenagers themselves, had to make a decision. In their world, there was no room for sentiment or emotion when the survival of the group was at stake. Cold self-preservation began to win out over any lingering sense of loyalty to their youngest member. Yummy had crossed from asset to liability. The protection he was promised had evaporated. The family he thought he had found was about to disown him in the most final way imaginable. An order came from a high-ranking member, a figure known on the street as High Top. The directive was clear: Yummy had to be silenced, permanently. The task fell to those closest to him, a cruel and calculated choice. It fell to the Hardaway brothers, Craig, age 16, Derek, age 14. They were Yummy's friends, his mentors in the gang.
Ordered Craig to kill him.
Why did Robert die?
By means of not my control.
And was it your life versus his life?
Absolutely.
You thought it was that simple as either you do this or you die.
And that's how it always boils down. It's not like any wiggle room when you live in that lifestyle.
So you're saying you had no other choice?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Derek refused to leave his brother's side.
A lot of people don't know that he actually took me home, and I can just feel someone right. So when I asked him what's going on and he told me everything, I refused to let him go by himself.
I should have been more of a big brother and just get out, right? But at the time, that ain't the way you think. I'm still a minor, we still kids.
Hours after the murder, both brothers were in custody, and months later, they were convicted felons. Craig, 60 years for murder, Derek, 45 for driving the getaway car. They were the only two ever tried in the case, even though they say others were involved.
Why not tell?
Because I was believing in the foolishness they was telling me, as far as the gangs and that lifestyle.
What did they tell you?
How they gonna be there, support, take care of us, our families, everything.
And?
Nothing. Literally nothing. No letter, no contact, no money for me, my family, they needs, no lawyer, literally nothing.
Straight up, and we see that nigga daddy all the time in the area. And we stay goddamn not even 4 blocks away from each other.
Pretty much.
So that's a whole nother, so you know how that shit go. Yeah. You know all your mama goddamn relatives, your daddy relatives, you might know 1 or 2 or 3, they kids, but not the rest. It's a whole nother story.
For sure. So tell us around the time that you all met Yummy.
I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna have me a sip shit.
Nah, I met Yummy probably early '93.
Okay.
And he looked young as hell, like a kid, but at the same time, there was a few other members that was in high school that's looking the same age. That was little son. That's like going to high school. I'm in grammar school. So when he told me he was 16, it's like, well, shit, at the time, I believed. I really ain't know his real age until his death.
Okay, so when y'all met him, y'all was under the impression he was older than what he was.
That's what he told me.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying what he said to me.
Right.
So when I'm saying there's a couple other members that's young and in high school, and then I got a sister that's, how old was Catrice then, 21?
What, 93?
20?
In 93, she
anyway,
was born in 73, 2020, going on, yeah, about 21.
Our older sister Catrice, she still looked like a kid. You see what I'm saying? So back then, even when she was 21 driving, I ain't been in the car with the police pulling us over, and I'm 21, and had to literally show her driver's license because this how young she looked. So when I met him, he told me he was 16. Huh?
You remember we used to make her go by lake and she drove her driver's license and it was blue?
So I believed it, you know what I mean? But that was when I first met him. Like, right. He looked young, but when he told me he was 16, well, he is, so why not?
And he was already one of the members, you said.
Yeah.
At that time.
So,
absolutely.
When I first met Yummy, I met Yummy on 108th Street. At the time, for the Hundreds, that was like one of the headquarters.
Okay.
I didn't really get to know Yummy until, I don't even remember what the shorty was in the Audi home for. I was fighting an attempt murder. I don't even know what the he was in there for. I was on 5G. Shorty was on 4J. I remember him going to court, because we had both went to court on the same day. I remember when we got bussed back to the Audi home, he was saying that they had basically dropped his charges, but he had to go to placement. Placement during that time in the juvenile justice system was sort of like being placed in DCFS, but they sent you outside the state. My charges was dropped because the witness and the victim refused to come to court. No BDEs. We started the BDEs on 105th. I remember 100 and Nate. You know what I mean, man? When them niggas was breeds, when them wasn't nothing but breeds and GDs in the 100s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, man? The Buff, what niggas call a Buff now, after Buff got killed, I remember 119 when Buff, who come from Inglewood, wasn't even a minister out there. Because my little brother, Corey, stayed on 120th and Stewart. You know what I mean? So, even though we brothers, we come from, because I'm a little bit older and came off the porch a little bit quicker than he did because of what I did like with my Uncle Rock and a whole bunch of other GDs. I remember the hundreds when the hundreds, goddamn it, used to be like the laughing stock. It was a time when like we was a laughing stock. It wasn't until a start nailing niggas and start hunting for niggas till a said like, wait a minute, hold up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember the hundreds folk, a nigga start saying that shit was wild. You know what I'm talking about? And everything other than. I don't have a colleague right now that's a Rhodes Scholar. I am though. I don't say that to boast or brag. Never put in any qualifications to show why I should be. They contacted me. I don't.
22, 3 months.
Now we talking about 2 decades. We talking about a whole lot of time to be
or better.
Or better.
Yeah.
We talking about a lot of time to be locked up. You know what I'm saying? You know, nowadays, I'm just trying to get y'all hip to what's going on in our culture. A lot of guys are telling, and they getting out, and they talking about it in interviews. And it's a lot of fans that's on their side saying, okay, he did it. He told. Okay, but we still rocking with him. But, you know, we understand we from a culture where that type of nonsense is intolerable, correct? Telling on somebody is that's not even an option, correct?
I'm gonna let D answer that, then I'm gonna answer.
It's never an option. And it's like, wrap this shit up and make it simple. Like Tekashi 6ix9ine, you going doing this and you running your mouth on that thing, and everybody that's supporting them, like, they all is one. They snitches. If you support it, you with it. Whatever reason he had to do what the fuck he did or said what he said, I don't know. I don't give a fuck. That's his business. But how I was raised, like, nah. And honestly, it's like, why the fuck is he still breathing? If this how you really feel about this shit, you know what I mean, and you really in it, it's like, he out here glorifying this shit. So, I don't move like that, I don't rock like that. It's whatever the fuck you do, that's your business.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. Like, I can see some shit and I don't see shit. I don't hear, see too well fucking way.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to who did you mention?
Tekashi 6ix9ine, but it's more. It's not just him, it's more.
No. We gonna focus solely on him.
Okay.
For the sake of the conversation.
Okay.
In theory, I support what he's saying. In application, I kinda different. And this is where I different at. And this is hard for me because I'm a raw street nigga. You know what I mean? Street code say that we don't snitch. I support that 100%. But I'm just not a street nigga. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. What the fuck does that mean? Divorce the street CR nigga. Ain't no easy way to say this shit, but I'ma say it. Real facts. Give you a case in point. As a father, divorced Black Disciple, divorced the street shit. If I personally don't want to get involved, if I see somebody that's inflicting harm upon a minor as a father, what am I compelled to do?
They pulling up right behind me and folks asked me one time, like, what them gloves? And before I could fully answer, he bust on me. Like, literally damn near knocked me out. The gate saved me though, but.
Hear it that you all would like to reach out to Yummy's family.
Absolutely.
Has that been something you all have been able to accomplish since that last interview?
I'm gonna let D answer that and I'll follow.
I think it was 2006. We was in Stateville in what, F House with his uncle. What was his name, Blue?
But continue.
But we was in F House with one of his uncles, you know, literally right next door to him. And we spoke, you know, and you got a clear understanding on things. So it was a lot of things that was said during that conversation, you know, that was shocking because I ain't know like his family have forgiven us and things like that, you know what I mean? Well, it just is what it is at this point. Ain't no tension, ain't no ill will feelings, no hatred or none of that. It's just all love.
Right. You want to chime in, brother?
So, as it relates to his family, right? The vast majority of them know we didn't knock Shorty off. Even though that's what's been reported for the better part of almost 3 decades. What my brother was alluding to, one of his skin folks has to be a triplet. One of the persons that's a member of the triplet happens to be Siobhan Dean murder. Just make sure we understand that.
Siobhan Dean's mother.
Which happens to be one of the murders that he was accused of doing.
Right.
Right? So, prior to this interview, between me and you, for those that's not seeing this part of the camera, a DJ UTV is, I wanted going to discuss on air that part, but because I feel that we had a space, he got, unfortunately, charged with something he was unable to physically be charged with. Draw whatever conclusions you want from that.
I'm picking up what you put down.
Fast forward. The only reason I personally agreed to do this interview is because years prior to my release, again in 2020, was to set the record straight. As we sit here now, I can't say if this is the correct platform to do such. But what I will say is 100% of what you've been led to accept as true is 100% negative on what that truth is. Now I know a lot of y'all will look at what I'm saying now. We wind back, fast forward. I encourage you to do. Truth centers should do their due diligence. But I will say this, before I pass the mic back to our narrator, over 90% of what you heard to believe is so far and remotely from what the truth actually is. And I pass.
I understand that.
Now, they were ordered to execute their 11-year-old crew member. They found Yummy hiding at a neighbor's house, terrified, and talking about turning himself into the police. They convinced him surrender was a bad idea, that the police couldn't be trusted. They fell back on the lie. The gang had a plan to get him out of town, to get him to safety. That evening on August 31st, Craig and Derek told Yummy it was time to go. They walked with him through the dark streets of their neighborhood, a final, fateful journey. Yummy likely felt a sense of relief. The hiding was over. The running was done. He was with his crew. He was with his protectors. He trusted them completely, unaware that their comforting presence was the ultimate betrayal. He followed them without question toward the pedestrian underpass at 108th Street and Dauphin Avenue. It was a familiar landmark, a shortcut they had probably taken countless times before. The underpass was secluded, dark, desolate, a concrete tube hidden from the view of nearby houses and passing cars. Its walls were covered in graffiti, the air thick and damp. It was the perfect place for an ambush. Derek Hardaway would later tell police what happened next. He said that as they walked through the tunnel, his older brother, Craig, told Yummy to get on his knees. For a moment, Yummy must have been confused, the command not making any sense. The promise of escape was suddenly replaced by a cold, terrifying reality. But Craig hesitated. He couldn't do it. It was his 14-year-old brother, Derek, younger and seemingly more hardened by the streets, who took the .25 caliber pistol from his brother's hand. He stepped behind the kneeling 11-year-old. He fired 2 shots in quick succession into the back of Robert Yummy Sandifer's head. The boy who had sought family and protection from the Black Disciples was executed by them, his life extinguished in a dark, lonely tunnel, betrayed by the only people he thought he could trust. In the pre-dawn quiet of September 1st, 1994, beneath a pedestrian underpass at 108th and Dauphin Avenue, the body of Robert Yummy Sandifer lay undiscovered for several hours. The concrete walls, usually echoing with the sounds of the city, held a somber silence. It was a place thousands passed by daily, now the final, lonely resting place for a child who had been running for his life. A Chicago police officer on patrol, investigating what appeared to be an abandoned pile of clothing, made the grim discovery. At first, it was just a shape in the shadows, but as the officer drew closer, the horrifying reality became clear. This wasn't just a crime scene, it was the end of a citywide search that had gripped Chicago. When the body was turned over, there was no doubt about the identity. The face, though tragically still, was the same one plastered on news reports and flyers across the South Side. It was Lil Yummy. The boy they had been hunting was found, not as a fugitive, but as a victim of a cold-blooded execution. The news spread like a shockwave. The city's intense manhunt had come to a shocking and tragic conclusion. A collective sigh of relief that the search was over was immediately replaced by a gasp of horror at its outcome. The 11-year-old killer was now a victim himself, a paradox that left the community and the nation struggling for answers. Crime scene investigators meticulously combed the area. The police found 2.25 caliber shell casings near the body, a crucial piece of evidence that would help them trace the murder weapon. This small caliber suggested a close-range, personal attack. The investigation immediately shifted from a manhunt to a murder inquiry, and the primary suspects were the very people Yummy had looked to for protection, his own gang. Detectives began applying intense pressure, bringing known members of the Black Disciples in for questioning. They theorized that Yummy had become a liability, a loose end that the gang's leadership needed to tie up permanently. Their focus quickly narrowed to the 2 teenagers last seen with Yummy, 16-year-old Craig Hardaway and his 14-year-old brother Derek. 14-year-old Derek broke first. After hours of intense questioning, the weight of the secret became too much for the young teenager to bear. He confessed to his role in the murder, his story painting a devastating picture of misplaced loyalty and brutal gang justice. His account was chillingly detailed and matter-of-fact. He explained they had picked Yummy up under the pretense of taking him to safety. He admitted that his older brother, Craig, hesitated when the moment came to execute the order. In that moment of indecision, Derek took the gun and fired 2 fatal shots into the back of Yummy's head. Based on this confession, Craig and Derek Hardaway were formally arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of Robert Yummy Sandifer. The image of 2 more children, barely teenagers themselves, being led away in handcuffs for the murder of another child compounded the tragedy. The brothers, who had once been inseparable allies in the unforgiving world of street gangs, were now co-defendants in a capital murder case. Their trial would become another focal point for a nation grappling with the terrifying reality of children killing children. In 1996, after a trial that laid bare the brutal inner workings of the gang and the impossible choices faced by its youngest members, a jury found them both guilty of the murder of Robert Sandifer. Despite their youth, the sentences were severe. Craig Hardaway, the older brother who hesitated, was sentenced to 60 years in prison. Derek Hardaway, the 14-year-old who pulled the trigger, received a sentence of 45 years. 2 more young lives, consumed by the same cycle of violence that took Yummy. In mid-September 1994, a funeral was held for Robert Yummy Sandifer at the Youth Center Chapel in Roseland. Hundreds of community members, family, and even strangers touched by his story came to pay their respects, seeking some form of closure. In his small open casket, Yummy looked younger than 11. Dressed in a suit, he looked like any other child, finally at peace. The sight was a heartbreaking contrast to the menacing mugshot that had defined him in his final days. After the service, Yummy was buried in an unmarked grave. There was no headstone to carry his name, no permanent marker to signify his short, turbulent time on Earth. It was a final, poignant symbol of a boy who belonged nowhere, a child lost to a system and a society that had failed him at every turn. Yummy Sandifer was the living, breathing, and dying embodiment of this philosophy. The hate you give, little infants, fucks everybody. His story was a brutal lesson in how neglect, abuse, and societal indifference create a monster, only to be horrified when the monster acts accordingly. Tragically, Yummy's Got a Gun was never completed or released. The track, which promised to be one of 2Pac's most profound social commentaries, was lost in the turmoil following his own untimely death. It remains one of hip-hop's great what-ifs. The echoes of Yummy's life, amplified by 2Pac's grief, continue to reverberate through the culture, a permanent, heartbreaking reminder of the hate we give our little infants, and how it ultimately fucks us all. His story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about poverty, violence, and the children we leave behind. It serves as a haunting question. How many other Yummy Sandifers are out there, right now, walking a path paved with neglect and desperation, waiting for a society that sees them as a problem to be solved rather than a child to be saved? In a city of echoing overpasses and silent corners, Robert Yummy Sandifer's story moved fast. A child shaped by neglect, a shooting that sparked a manhunt, a promise of protection that became a betrayal, and a dawn discovery that turned a fugitive into a victim. The aftermath exposed a cycle: kids recruited, kids discarded, families grieving, headlines fading. While another underpass waits, another child walks alone. There's an old story about travelers who looked away from a wounded boy on the road, crossing to the other side, and one stranger, unexpected, unwanted, who stopped, lifted, and stayed until it was safe. Compassion, not distance, changed the ending. We face the same choice at every neighborhood crossroads: pass by or be the neighbor. Compassion looks like safe spaces after school, mentors who call back, trauma care, street outreach, jobs that start early, and systems that refuse to lose a child to the shadows. If we act before the sirens, we change the script. Be the neighbor. Notice, intervene, support. Offer a ride, a meal, a name remembered, a hand on a shoulder. Let the next dawn break on a child who is seen, guided, and home.